There are places that the internet invents, and places it accidentally remembers. A town that used to appear on maps, but doesn't anymore. The roads that led there were rerouted, the forest reclaimed the trails, and the few who once called it home have long since scattered. But some stories refuse to stay buried, especially the ones whispered in the trees. Locals used to talk about the tall man, a figure glimpsed at the edge of vision, pale, impossibly thin, and wrong. He didn't walk. He glided between the trunks, watching. The older residents said he'd always been there, long before the town was built. The settlers called him Der Schlank Man, the Slender Man, a name borrowed from German folklore, brought across the ocean and rooted into American soil. Children vanished in those woods during the early 1900s. Search parties found nothing but torn pages, drawings of a faceless figure, and symbols carved into bark, circles crossed with X's. The disappearances stopped after the town's church burned down, but no one ever learned who lit the fire. Decades later, the legend resurfaced online. Grainy photos, message boards, creepypastas. But what no one realized was that the original story wasn't fiction. It was memory. And when a young journalist named Eleanor Graves returned to Sterling Hollow to write about the town that inspired Slenderman, she didn't know the legend wasn't waiting to be told. It was waiting to be remembered. They say once you learn his name, once you see his shape, you're part of his story. So as you listen, keep your lights low. Don't look away from the trees on your screen, because if you do, you might just see him standing there. The highway narrowed into a ribbon of cracked asphalt, swallowed by pine and mist. Eleanor Graves squinted through her windshield, her GPS screen glitching between coordinates. The signal had been gone for miles. She whispered, half to herself, "Welcome to nowhere." The sign that greeted her was little more than rust and rot. Sterling Hollow, Est, 1872. Someone had spray painted over it in uneven black strokes. "Don't look." She parked outside the only gas station still standing, its windows filmed with grime, its neon sign buzzing like an insect dying slow. A man sat behind the counter, motionless except for the lazy flick of a newspaper page. His eyes, pale as winter sky, lifted when she entered. "You lost?" he asked. "Looking for the hollow," Eleanor said, pulling down her hood. "Used to be a town here. I'm writing an article on forgotten places in America." The man chuckled. "A sound without humor. Forgotten's a good word. Some things are meant to stay that way. People used to live here, right? The logging community?" He folded the paper carefully, as though handling something fragile. "Lived, died, left. Take your pick. But if you're planning to go into the woods, take this." He slid a paper map across the counter. It looked handmade, roads sketched in pencil, margins stained with age. In the corner, someone had drawn a crude circle with an X through it. Eleanor frowned. "What's this symbol?" He didn't answer, just stared. "Don't follow the trees," he said finally. "They lead you where he wants." She laughed nervously, stuffing the map into her bag. "Right, Slender Man. I've heard the stories." He didn't laugh back. By afternoon, mist blanketed the forest like a second skin. Eleanor set up camp near the ruins of an old church, the same one that burned down a century ago. The bell tower still jutted like a broken tooth against the gray sky. She unpacked her camera and voice recorder. "Day one," she spoke into the mic. "Arrived at Sterling Hollow. Locals are sparse. Gas station attendant warned me about following trees. Not sure if it's superstition or small-town gatekeeping." A pinnacone fell behind her. She turned sharply. Nothing, just the woods breathing. Night came fast, heavy as if dropped. The forest absorbed the moonlight, leaving only shapes. Eleanor sat by her small fire, scrolling through her notes. Archived reports from 1901. 5 children missing between March and September. Search parties found sketches nailed to trees. No remains recovered. The sketches were attached to her article draft. Crude drawings of a tall figure with outstretched arms, faceless, surrounded by children holding hands. She'd seen hundreds online, but these were dated decades before the internet. Urban legend my ass, she muttered. A low hum joined the wind, mechanical, faintly electric. Her recorder's red light blinked on by itself, then static. Then a voice. Eleanor. She froze. Hello? She replayed the tape. Silence. Just the hiss of night. She looked around. Trees in every direction, black and endless. One stood out. Thinner, straighter, pale bark glinting white. For a second, she thought she saw something beside it. A darker line, vertical, moving. But when she blinked, it was gone. She zipped the tent, crawled inside, and forced herself to breathe. She recorded again. Night 1. Probably my imagination. Locals have a way of making you feel watched. A nervous laugh. If anyone ever hears this, remind me to bring a bigger flashlight next time. Outside, the fire hissed out. And in the dark, between the trees, something impossibly tall leaned closer, listening. Next morning, fog blanketed the ground. Eleanor's tent was damp. Her camera battery drained, though she'd powered it off. She stepped outside, rubbing her temples, and froze. Someone had arranged twigs in front of her tent, forming the same circle and egg symbol from the map. She knelt, snapping a photo. Okay, she whispered, voice shaking. Someone's messing with me. Then she saw the footprints. Bare, long, deep, leading away into the trees. The journalist instinct in her warred with fear. Curiosity won. She followed. The trail wound deeper until she reached an old playground overtaken by moss. A rusted swing, a slide bent like a broken limb. Her camera clicked as she took pictures. That's when she saw it, a drawing carved into the wood of the slide. He waits in stillness. She backed away, breath shallow. The air around her thickened, sound dulling as if the forest held its breath. From somewhere behind her came the faintest scrape, like fabric brushing bark. She turned, no one there. But all the trees seemed to be facing her now, their trunks impossibly straight, their shadows stretched like reaching arms. She ran, branches whipping her face, mud sucking at her boots, until she burst back into the clearing where her car waited. The door handle was cold. Her reflection in the window looked strange, stretched, her face elongated by the curve of the glass. And behind her reflection, a shape, tall, faceless, watching. She spun around. Nothing, only fog and pine. Eleanor leaned against the car, gasping. Just pareidolia, she whispered. Just. From her bag, the recorder clicked on again by itself. Voice. You found me. Cut to black. Eleanor awoke to the sound of knocking. 3 sharp raps on metal. She sat up inside her tent, heart hammering. The light outside was dim and colorless, that dead gray between dawn and day. She waited, holding her breath. Nothing. Only the hiss of wind through the pines. When she finally stepped out, the clearing was empty. Her car sat coated in dew, her gear untouched. But on the windshield, drawn with a fingertip in the condensation, were 3 words. He took her. Eleanor grabbed her recorder. Morning of day 2, she whispered, voice trembling. Someone came to my camp last night. They left a message on my car. He took her. I don't know who her is yet. She scanned the tree line, half expecting to see the same pale figure from last night. Only fog. The map from the gas station lay open on her hood. She noticed faint pencil markings she hadn't before, scribbles leading north, toward something labeled Miller's Crossing. She drove until the road became gravel, then dirt. The forest thickened, the trees older here, black trunks slick with moss, their roots like claws gripping the soil. At the end of the path, she found a house. It was a crumbling 2-story farmhouse, windows boarded, porch sagging under years of rot. Yet faint music drifted from inside, a child's lullaby, warped and slowed. Eleanor hesitated, then pushed open the door. Inside, dust motes floated like ghosts in the thin light. A child's toys were scattered across the floor, blocks, a cracked porcelain doll, a yellowing photograph of a little girl in a white dress. On the back of the photo, someone had written, Abigail -1901. She turned on her recorder again. Miller Farmhouse, possibly connected to the 1901 disappearances. Finding children's belongings still here. No sign of life. From upstairs came a faint thud. Hello? She called. Is someone there? No answer. Only the slow rhythm of footsteps. She climbed the stairs, each one groaning beneath her weight. The hall above was lined with old wallpaper. Trees and birds faded into brown ghosts. One door was half open, light spilling from within. She pushed it open. A child's bedroom. And on the far wall, hundreds of drawings pinned in overlapping layers. Every single one showed the same figure. A tall man in black, arms like branches, face erased. Eleanor's breath hitched. She stepped closer. In the center of the drawings was one page newer than the rest, its pencil lines sharp and fresh. It read, He stands where the trees end. Something shifted in the corner. Eleanor turned, flashlight trembling in her hand. The closet door moved slightly, not opening, just breathing. Who's in there? She whispered. She crept closer, pulse hammering. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. She opened the door. Inside was a small girl, maybe 9 years old, knees pulled to chest. Her eyes were hollow, her skin gray with dust. She whispered, You shouldn't have come. Eleanor crouched. What's your name? The girl shook her head. He doesn't like names. Who? The child pointed toward the window. Outside, through the wavering glass, the tree line rippled, and a shadow, impossibly tall, slid between the trunks. Eleanor stumbled back, yanking the girl's hand. We're leaving. But the child resisted. You can't. He already found you. The temperature dropped, visible breath spilling from their mouths. The air filled with static, the drawings on the walls fluttering as if caught in an unseen wind. Then, the sound of something dragging along the hallway floor. Step, drag, step. Eleanor turned off her flashlight, clutching the recorder close. A shadow passed under the door, long, thin, and branching at the edges. The little girl began to hum, that same broken lullaby from before. Stop, Eleanor whispered, shaking. Please stop. Too late. The shadow stretched up the wall, splitting into tendrils that reached for the ceiling. The drawings peeled off, fluttering around them like dying leaves. Eleanor screamed, grabbing the child, and ran. She didn't stop until the house vanished behind the fog. She collapsed by the road, lungs burning, the child gone. Just gone, as if she'd melted into the mist. Eleanor stared at her empty hands, then at her recorder, still running. She played it back. Child's voice, distorted. He took her. Eleanor. Who? Who did? Voice. He took me. Hours later, the journalist sat in her car, shaking uncontrollably. Her map had changed again. The pencil trail now extended past Miller's Crossing to a handwritten note that hadn't been there before. It read, If you keep looking, he'll look back. The words seemed to shimmer on the page, faint static crawling at their edges. Eleanor whispered, I think he already has. She looked up through the windshield. Between the trees, that same pale line again. Still, waiting. Cut to black. Eleanor had barely slept. The girl's face kept appearing when she closed her eyes. Gray, hollow, lips whispering words she couldn't quite remember. Morning light cut through the fog like a dull knife. The forest loomed darker now, each tree's bark glistening like old scars. She started the car and drove back toward the town's center, if it could even be called that. A row of collapsed houses, a church ruin, a few rusted street lamps that hadn't worked in decades. A missing poster clung to a telephone pole, its paper warped by rain. It wasn't a child's face this time, it was hers. A grainy photo of Eleanor Graves. Same clothes, same hair. Beneath it, last seen Sterling Hollow, 2023. Her breath hitched. She tore the poster down and stumbled back into her car. The engine coughed twice before catching. This is a prank, she told herself. Someone's trying to freak me out. But in the rearview mirror, she saw movement behind her. Not a figure exactly, but a blur that stretched taller than the trees before dissolving. She pressed the gas. By midday, she reached the old logging site, the one mentioned in the 1901 reports. The stumps were still there, each one blackened as if burned. The air smelled of ash and wet wood. She turned on her recorder. Logging site, possibly where the first disappearances occurred. Locals referred to this area as the Black Trees, though none of the remaining trees appear black to the eye. She paused. The light had dimmed, though the sun hadn't set. Her camera flickered. When she looked through the lens, the trunks were black, slick, pulsing, almost liquid. She lowered the camera. Normal again. Raised it, black. Lowered, normal. What the hell? She whispered. Something whispered back. Don't look. Her camera fell to the mud. The whisper had come from behind her, close enough to feel the breath. But when she turned, there was no one there. At the far end of the clearing stood an old logging shack, roof half collapsed. Eleanor forced the door open. Inside, the air was stale, thick with rot and old paper. On the wall, hundreds of photographs hung from nails. Faces of children, families, men in logging uniforms. Each photo was marked with the same circle, an X drawn across the eyes. A single photo in the center stood out, larger, newer, printed on glossy paper. It was hers again. In the photo, she was standing right where she was now, inside the shack, facing the wall of photos. But behind her, in the photo, the tall man loomed, closer than she'd ever seen, arms outstretched like branches ready to wrap around her. Eleanor's knees buckled. The photo slipped from her hands. She stumbled outside, gasping, rain pouring harder now. The woods around her looked different closer. The path she'd driven in on was gone, swallowed by trees that hadn't been there minutes ago. She ran. Branches slashed her face. The rain turned cold, metallic, smelling of rust. She didn't care. She just kept running until she broke through into another clearing. This one dominated by an enormous pine, easily 3 times taller than any other. Its bark was pitch black. Symbols were carved into the trunk, spirals, crosses, circles, layered over each other like a language written by panic. At the base of the tree sat a wooden box, half buried. Eleanor knelt, pried it open. Inside were pages, sketches, diaries, fragments of letters, all dated between 1900 and 1902. She flipped through one, written in a woman's hand. They said the tall man keeps to the tree line, but he comes closer now. The children see him when they sleep. He stands where the trees end, and the trees move to meet him. Another page. We tried fire. It burned the church, but not the forest. The trees bled black. He smiled without a mouth. The rain stopped abruptly. The sound cut out like someone had pressed mute. Eleanor looked up. The forest had gone perfectly still. No wind, no rustle, no birds. The air pressed against her ears, and then she heard it, faint, rhythmic. A clicking sound, like bones tapping together. It came from behind the black tree. She raised her flashlight. Who's there? Silence. She stepped closer. The beam caught something pale behind the trunk, a shape too tall to be human, skin the color of fog. Her breath froze. It moved. Not walking, unfolding. The flashlight flickered. Her vision tunneled. For an instant, she saw the impossible. The forest bending away from him, trees leaning like frightened animals. And his head, smooth, faceless, turning toward her. Her knees gave out. She fell backward, hands sinking into wet moss. The world blurred at the edges, the sound of static screaming in her ears. Then, nothing. When Eleanor woke, it was dusk. The black tree was gone. Or rather, it was everywhere. Every trunk around her was now slick and dark, identical, stretching into infinity. Her phone was dead. Her recorder blinked once, then played on its own. Faint voice, not hers. You looked too long. She screamed, throwing the recorder away, but the voice didn't stop. It echoed from the trees themselves, dozens of overlapping whispers repeating the same phrase. You looked too long. You looked too long. She stumbled through the forest, blind with panic, until she tripped over a root and fell into mud. When she lifted her head, she saw it. The church, somehow standing again, the bell tower whole, its doors wide open. Inside, candlelight flickered. And in the doorway, silhouetted against the glow, a figure, thin, motionless, arms too long, cut to black. Eleanor stumbled through the mist, her boots soaked, the recorder clutched to her chest like a talisman. The forest around her seemed alive, twisting subtly whenever she blinked. Shadows leaned closer. Branches scraped her arms as if warning her to stop. She arrived at the church's threshold, shaking, rain running down her face. The door creaked as she pushed it open. Inside, dust and decay were replaced by something almost ceremonial. Hundreds of scattered papers, old candles burned down to stubs, symbols painted across the walls in black ink, circles crossed with X's, spirals, and branching lines like outstretched arms. Eleanor's eyes fell on a table near the altar. A journal lay open, its leather cover worn, pages yellowed. She picked it up and read the first entry aloud. We followed him into the woods. We called him the Watcher. He does not move as humans do, but the trees obey him. Children see him at the edge of dreams. They follow willingly. A shiver ran down her spine. The sentences were centuries old, yet the ink looked fresh in some places, like it had been touched recently. She flipped further. If you read this, he knows. The pages mark the path. He waits for the curious. He does not forgive those who seek the truth. The floorboards behind her creaked. Eleanor spun around. The church was empty. Candlelight flickered, though she hadn't touched any candles. The shadows stretched unnaturally along the walls. A single page fluttered from the journal to the floor, landing face up. It was her handwriting. He stands at the edge of the trees. He is waiting. She froze. Her pulse pounded in her ears. How could it be her handwriting? She hadn't written this. She hadn't even seen the page until now. A draft blew through the church, and the pages scattered like leaves. Eleanor caught another, this one a drawing of the girl from the farmhouse, kneeling in front of the faceless figure. Beneath it were words she couldn't read aloud without trembling. Do not look, or you will join us. Her recorder clicked on again. The playback started automatically. Faint whispers. "Eleanor, follow. Eleanor, follow." "No, no, no," she whispered, shaking. She backed toward the doorway, only to find the exit gone, replaced by a solid wall of black ink, dark as the tree trunks outside. The temperature dropped. Frost formed on the altar. Her breath was visible, puffing out in uneven clouds. Something moved in the corner of her eye, a tall, thin shadow standing silently, arms stretched, faceless. She froze, unable to scream. The recorder fell from her hands, clattering to the floor, and then it spoke. "You read too long." A voice was everywhere. The walls, the floor, even in the air around her. Eleanor backed away, heart racing, trying to find the altar, anything for safety. The candle flames flickered violently, elongating the shadows until the entire room seemed to lean toward her. She grabbed the journal, flipping frantically through pages filled with drawings. Faceless figures towering over children, silhouettes bending the trees, symbols in every margin. And finally, a new page, not bound in the book, resting on the altar as if waiting for her. "The next page is yours. Write carefully. He watches the letters you do not write." Eleanor dropped the journal. Her mind screamed at her to run, but her feet refused. The shadows twisted, forming an impossible corridor, stretching toward the ceiling, reaching for her. She stumbled back. From the corner of the room, a child's laughter echoed, warped, hollow. The little girl from the farmhouse appeared in the doorway, but her eyes were black pits now, empty and unfeeling. "Eleanor," the girl whispered. "He doesn't like interruptions." The floor beneath Eleanor shifted, the boards rippling like water. The walls drew closer. The black ink on the walls began to drip, stretching into shapes, arms, long and skeletal, reaching toward her. She screamed and ran toward where the door should have been. It appeared just in time, a solid wooden rectangle amidst the shadows. She slammed through it, tumbling outside. The forest had changed again. The black tree from before now towered impossibly high, surrounded by dozens of others identical in shape and size, forming a wall that stretched to the horizon. Eleanor's journal flew from her hands, pages scattering. She tried to catch one. It read, "He remembers. And now, so do you." She looked back, and the black trees shifted, bending slightly as though following her every movement. The wind carried the faintest sound of footsteps, too long and too heavy to be human. She ran, tripping, crashing through underbrush until she stumbled into a clearing. There, the fog cleared enough to see the church again, perfectly intact, glowing faintly as if beckoning her inside. Eleanor realized with a shiver. She was back where she started, but nothing about the forest was the same. The pages, the shadows, the faceless figure, all pieces of a story she had no hope of finishing without losing herself entirely. And in the distance, the tree line shifted, forming a figure taller than the pines. Eleanor whispered to herself, "I have to understand. I have to know." The wind seemed to whisper back, "Then follow." And right. Eleanor ran blindly through the forest, rain slicking her hair and clothes to her skin. The black trees surrounded her, trunks impossibly straight, shadows stretching farther than the mind could comprehend. Every step felt like wading through molasses, the mud sucking at her boots, roots twisting underfoot like the hands of unseen children. The journal burned in her memory, each page a warning, a guide, and a trap. The little girl's distorted laughter echoed intermittently, bouncing through the fog, sometimes near, sometimes impossibly far. Eleanor stumbled into a clearing. The mist here was thick, almost solid, curling around the blackened trunks like ghostly fingers. In the center lay a shallow grave, freshly dug, the soil dark, wet, and pungent with decay. She knelt beside it. Something drew her, an almost magnetic pull, a whispering in her mind. Remember, remember, remember. The earth seemed to pulse beneath her hands. She peered inside. There were fragments of small, brittle bones, children's remains, centuries old, and yet somehow fresh. Among them lay scraps of clothing she recognized. The white dress of Abigail, the little girl from the Fairmouse. Her stomach turned. She looked up. The forest had shifted again. Paths she knew were gone. The trees leaned closer, their trunks forming narrow corridors as if guiding her deeper. Eleanor realized the forest remembered everything. Every disappearance, every fear, every glance back. It had all been recorded here, in the soil, the bark, the air itself. And now it remembered her. A sound behind her, a branch snapping, then another. She spun. The tall, faceless figure was there, at the edge of the clearing, partially obscured by mist. Its arms stretched unnaturally, swaying slowly, following some rhythm only it could understand. Eleanor froze, mind racing. She remembered the journal's warning. He stands where the trees end, but the trees had no end here. The figure began to move, or rather, the forest moved around it. Trees bent, trunks elongating, roots creeping along the ground like fingers. Every movement of the entity seemed to command the woods themselves, reshaping them. "Please," Eleanor whispered, voice trembling. "I'm just looking. I don't want." The figure tilted its head, faceless, and for an instant, Eleanor felt everything the forest had ever seen. All the children it had consumed, all the hunters who never returned, every scream and whisper embedded in bark and soil. She turned and ran, branches tearing at her clothes. The mud pulled her down repeatedly, and every time she stumbled, she could hear a low, clicking sound approaching, rhythmical, like bones clicking together in unison. The clearing opened into a riverbank, dark and silent. The water reflected the misty light, smooth like glass. Eleanor's reflection stared back at her, elongated, twisted, and in that reflection, a shadow rose behind her, taller than the tallest pine, arms stretching impossibly high. Her breath caught. She realized with terror, the figure didn't just pursue her. It existed in every reflection, every corner of vision, every still surface. Eleanor tried to scream, but only a strangled whisper emerged. She fell to her knees. The mud beneath her swirled unnaturally, pulling at her hands. Then a page floated down from above, landing in front of her. Wet, torn, and dripping ink. The words were clear. The woods remember. You are part of the story now. She scrambled to her feet, instincts screaming, and ran along the riverbank. The mist thickened, the trees bending further, until they formed an archway, dark and narrow, pulling her in like a funnel. She didn't look back. She couldn't, but she felt it. The presence of Slenderman, gliding silently, stretching beyond sight, moving with the forest. Every step she took, the trees remembered. Every glance, the entity remembered. Suddenly, she tripped, falling face first into the mud. The river beside her roared unnaturally, like the forest was alive. Eleanor looked up, blinking through the rain, and saw the faceless figure at the far end of the archway, watching her. It didn't move closer. It didn't need to. The forest itself was its body, bending, twisting, leaning toward her. Eleanor felt her mind fraying. The stories, the warnings, the children's screams, all of it surged into her consciousness. She realized the horrifying truth. The forest wasn't just haunted. It was the entity. The trees, the soil, the shadows, all extensions of him. She staggered forward blindly, following a faint trail that might have been a path. Every step felt predestined. Every breath drawn was shared with the entity, as though her own existence was now entwined with it. At last, she reached a clearing untouched by the blackened forest, sun faintly breaking through clouds. And there, in the center, was the original church ruins, older, blackened from the fire, yet standing against the impossibility of time. Eleanor realized she had returned full circle. The wind stilled. Silence pressed on her ears, and the forest behind her shifted, bending one last time. From the shadows of the ruins, a hand reached out. Not a hand of flesh, long, pale, impossibly thin, faceless. Eleanor knew in that moment. There was no escape. The woods remembered. And now, so did she. She stepped forward toward the ruins, compelled, terrified, and utterly alone. Eleanor stood at the threshold of the church ruins, the blackened forest stretching behind her like a living wall. Her boots were caked in mud, her clothes soaked, her hands trembling around the recorder and the scattered pages of the journal. She could feel the forest watching, every tree, every shadow a sentinel for the entity that had been following her for days. A low hum began in her chest, resonating through her bones. The pages she held fluttered as if caught in a phantom breeze. From the shadows of the ruins, the figure emerged. Not walking, gliding, faceless, thin beyond reason. Arms stretching far below the ground and far above the canopy. Its presence consumed the space around it, bending light and shadow, warping the edges of her vision. Eleanor raised the recorder, trembling. I know what you are, she whispered. I know what you want. No response. Only silence, the kind that presses against the ears until your own heartbeat roars. Then the forest shifted. Trees bent unnaturally, moving toward her, forming corridors and tunnels, guiding her closer to the center of the ruins. The entity didn't chase her. It didn't need to. She was walking into its domain willingly, as if the forest had chosen her path. A voice, not from the entity, not from any human, spoke inside her mind. The story must continue. You see, you follow, you belong. Eleanor clutched her head. No, I won't be part of this. But her feet moved anyway, drawn by an unseen gravity. She crossed the threshold of the ruin, the air inside cold and still, heavy with centuries of memory. Candlelight flickered across the walls, revealing sketches. The children, the little girl, faceless figures, and finally, a new drawing. Herself, kneeling before the faceless one, arms outstretched, mirrored in the blackened tree bark surrounding the ruins. The entity loomed closer. Its arms reached for her, yet it never touched. Instead, the shadows of the church walls began to move independently, wrapping around her like fingers of darkness. She realized with a cold clarity, it doesn't need to physically harm her. Her fear is enough. Her acknowledgement binds her to it. She dropped the journal. Pages scattered like dead leaves. One page floated to her hands, freshly inscribed. You see him. You know him. You are remembered. The whispers grew louder, overlapping voices of children, of past victims, of herself repeating, "Follow, follow." Eleanor fell to her knees, screaming into the wind. The faceless one bent its head toward her, impossibly tall, filling her entire vision. In that instant, she glimpsed everything it had ever seen, every disappearance, every drawing, every scream echoing across the decades. She realized the ultimate truth. The faceless one was never alone. It was the forest, the ruins, the pages, the memory itself. And now, so was she, her vision blurred. The last thing she saw before collapsing was the entity's outstretched arms growing into the trees themselves, twisting reality, folding time and space. Hours or perhaps days passed. Eleanor awoke in the mist outside the ruins. The forest had returned to normal, or so it seemed. Sunlight pierced the canopy, birds called, and the wind was calm. But something was wrong. The journal lay open beside her, new pages added in handwriting she didn't recognize. One reads simply, "I have remembered." And now, so will you. She looked around. Every tree in the forest bore the faintest impression of a figure. Tall, faceless, arms branching impossibly far. And in the distance, she saw another shadow gliding between the trunks. Not following her. Waiting. Watching. Eleanor froze. She understood. The forest, the entity, the black trees, they would wait. For the next curious mind. For the next set of eyes that dared to see. She picked up her recorder, shaking, and whispered into the mic. Whatever you do, don't follow the trees. The wind carried her voice back to her, twisted and echoing. Too late. If you felt the chill, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll never miss a story that watches you from the shadows. Comment below. Would you dare follow the black trees if you were Eleanor? Or would you listen to the warning and turn away? The forest is patient, and it's always listening.